Timing is everything in a race, and also timing is pretty important in a race car driver's career. It has been 86 races since Jamie McMurray has driven into victory lane. He did it on NASCAR's other big track. Now he has a huge win as he will be looking for work next year. Race number 7 of the chase is in the history books, and you know what? We promised you a wild one at Talladega. You know what we got? Was a wild one, but a weird one. Welcome, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed at Talladega. Once again, we're sitting here in Victory Lane, and we still are not quite sure what happened out there because it was wacky, man. It was wacky. But bottom line is, Jimmie Johnson has made a huge move towards the championship, and Jamie McMurray's back in Victory Lane.
Well, I want to address the Jamie McMurray first, because here's a guy that he really still, I'm not sure he knows exactly what he's going to be doing in 2010. I don't know that Donnie Wingo, his crew chief, knows what he's going to be doing, and that race team don't know what they're going to be doing, because we know that Roush Fenway has to be the 4 teams in 2010, and it seems like because of lack of sponsorship that the 26-car McMurray were going to be the odd man out.
I can tell you what they're doing tonight.
They're going to be celebrating.
They're
going to be celebrating, but let's break this down. I do agree with Larry McReynolds. So we hear, this is all speculation in our opinion here on Victory Lane. They say that Bass Pro Shops is looking at Jamie McMurray. And if they can tie all this together, they're going to make it work. Well, guess what? They're going to say, well, he just won the race.
3-time winner in the Sprint Cup Series.
Now we have Jamie McMurray, who is a winner. Bass Pro Shops cannot ignore that. Chip Ganassi, they're sitting here with a gold mine now, because this is what the sport is about. And looks like he's got it going for him right now.
And this is race number 34. Who would ever believe this would be the first time that Roush Fenway has been to Victory Lane since race number 2 of this 2009 season? A long dry spell for that group.
Well, let's talk about the championship hopes for Jimmie Johnson. He just took one huge step towards engraving that trophy. Take a look at the first of several late race wrecks. This was a very scary one. Ryan Newman went up on his roof. We are very happy to say that Ryan Newman is okay. As we take a couple more looks at this, let's think about Jimmie Johnson running in the back of the pack all day. That was his strategy, and it's starting to pay off.
And I would believe NASCAR is going to look at this wreck very closely. Okay, the roof flaps deploy, but Larry McReynolds, my crew chief, the car did not set down. What happened?
No, it took off like an airplane, and honestly, I think the 29 car cushioned the blow a little bit when that car came back down.
And here is the key for your championship hopeful for his 4th championship in a row. Let's go on board with Jimmie Johnson. There you see Ryan Newman's car flying by, and Jimmie flying by as well.
Well, it was a very close call right here. You saw he almost got into the back of Martin Truex Jr., and I guess I'd rather be lucky than good on any given day.
Well, here is lucky. One more wreck to go on the green-white checkered finish. Look at where Jimmie Johnson was running, directly in front of that wreck.
And this is Mark the Kid Martin. A horrible-looking wreck, but he's okay.
So Jimmie Johnson goes from P26 to position number 8. As your winner, Jamie McMurray celebrates. Jimmie Johnson now has had a huge opening in the points.
Oh my gosh.
And Larry, why is everybody else in red?
Has bled all over the point standings.
Well, 101 for Mark. I'm sorry, 181 back for Mark Martin. That is a huge deficit to overcome in 3 races.
And the point I want to make for all you race fans, I do not want to hear you complain that Jimmie Johnson won the race, okay? He finished 8th, and he gained 53 points. So leave that conversation out of it this week.
But the reason that all of those guys, the other 11, are in red, 3 races to go, starting at Texas next weekend, the most points a driver can lose or gain in one race is 161 points. So right now, Jimmie Johnson is sitting there with 3 to go with more than 1 race cushion. That's regardless of what the other drivers do at Texas, Phoenix, and Homestead.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we ran at Texas, Jimmie Johnson ran P2. He's won at Phoenix before, and he's never had to run
win at Homestead.
He doesn't have to.
And we're speculating right now because we're still tabulating, but I know my man Larry Mack, he writes down a lot. I'm gonna go out on the limb because we're live right here in Victory Lane that I think if Jimmie Johnson maybe finishes 15th or better, no matter what anybody does, I mean, we'll add it up later on, but that seems pretty good to me.
What is this noise?
That is the trophy being engraved.
I would say with Jimmie Johnson.
With Jimmie Johnson. And it would be an unprecedented 4th championship if Jimmie Johnson can get it done. But this day is about Jamie McMurray and Roush Fenway Racing as they get a victory, and it's a long time coming for Jamie Mack.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by Travelodge. Recreate, hibernate.
Welcome back, everyone, to Victory Lane at Talladega. And you know, the folks at the racetrack may want to go back and find the Indian witch doctor or the medicine man or whatever they had here and get their money back from him, because he did not exercise any demons, but except for the ones that were on Jamie McMurray. 86 races since the last time that number 26 car with Jamie McMurray at the helm was in Victory Lane. But you know what? It was a long way to get there, a little bit more than 500 miles. So let's take you through the race that ended up in overtime, and also with a couple of cars turned over as well. Now, by virtue of the 6th rained out qualifying session of this year so far, we had the 12 chasers starting up front. But guys, we saw Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon and company, a lot of other people started hunting the back and quickly.
There was no question. Most of them had a strategy, and it was to get to the back of the pack. And a lot of them, when the first caution came out on lap 5, pitted for fuel, took their time on their pit stop where they could get back there.
So the 24-42, remember, these guys were good buddies from Martinsville, and they were already bumping a little bit. And remember, the whole cloud over this race about NASCAR saying we want to see daylight in between the race cars on the turns.
Yeah, and this was a very unique race. Look at this. Hey, guys, let's take it easy. Just go 4 wide on lap, say, 3. Lap 3. And look who's already dropping to the back here. I mean, this is incredible. You see Jeff Gordon back there.
See that 48 car falling back.
There's
fast.
the 5. These guys started the front 2 rows. Now, they don't want to drop back so fast that they get themselves in trouble. But let's get to the back. Let's log laps and get to the end.
Johnny, this was the caution I was talking about. It sounds like Paul Menard blew a tire, and Joe Nemechek in the 87 car had nowhere to go. This was the first caution that came out on lap 5. This is the caution I talked about that a lot of the guys that were trying to get to the back made casual pit stops to get back there.
So we saw strategy all over the place, but not too much strategy when it comes to racing in a pack like this. We see Montoya in the middle of, a 4 wide sandwich.
Yeah, and this is what I like as a driver. You're Matt Kent said, you're thinking I'm good, and the spotter goes 4 wide, and he's like, what? I'm 4 wide, so they come out of this looking pretty good, but still a beautiful looking Talladega race this early because the fans are getting what they want.
Now, generally in the drivers meeting, it's David Hoots that addresses the drivers. You know it's a big deal when Mike Helton, president of NASCAR, addresses the drivers, and this is what he was talking about, the bump drafting in the corners.
And you know what? I know what he's talking about, and I'm not saying what they did was wrong, but I don't agree with it. Racing is racing. These guys, as Ryan Newman said in his interview, the guys have to respect each other. You can't make them respect each other.
So it was a tale of 2 pretty different races at different times. There you see 4 wide, 3 wide going into the turns. Here we see, what people are calling a big snake of cars.
And the fans and a lot of people are in an uproar over this. I know we'd have to look at the laps, but a lot of racing done today because the drivers were afraid of getting penalized. And we have in-car audio, or I listen to in-car audio on network, and Kevin Harvick was quoted saying, gosh, I might as well listen to my iPod. This is ridiculous.
Now, this was on the first set of green flag pit stops. We'd almost cycled all the way through. In fact, it stayed green. This was A.J. Allmendinger, who actually got hit in the back by Clint Boyer coming on the pit road.
So a lot of action even in the pits here at Talladega today as we see AJ finally making his way into his pit stall, and Clint Boyer, the driver that got into him, pitting in the front of it. Now we see other drivers. Well, here comes Kurt Busch across the infield.
Well, Kurt was not trying to come to pit road. Kurt Busch had got bump drafted, and it caved the quarter panel in on the tire. The tire was down, and the car made a dead left.
So Jeff Gordon stayed out on that situation. He was trying to come down to the pit lane. He decided to stay out. And the other cars that actually did come down the pit lane were penalized for pitting too early because the red light went from green to red at the end of the pit.
Let's see the official. Look at the official. There we go, red. Now,
right there.
The only person that has enough time to react is your 4-time champion, Jeff Gordon. Watch this. Whoop. Now, the other cars got penalized and were made to start at the very rear of the field, Larry.
They were going to be at the rear of the field anyhow because they were the only cars that hadn't pitted under green, so it was kind of a moot point.
So our friend Elliott Sadler in the number 19 spent all day out front and, just announced he was going to have a boy. Baby coming down the pike pretty soon, but he was running great out there today.
Well, I think we need to make a note. That is a Yates Ford. fielded by Richard Petty Motorsports for this one race.
And of course, Elliott finishes 7th today. We want to get that in there. A great run by Elliott Sadler, even though he was involved in the last wreck.
A lot of strong cars up front here. You see Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, the announcers didn't have to announce that.
Jeff Gordon up there, but when Dale Earnhardt Jr. takes the lead at Talladega, you don't need to hear from anybody else but the fans. You know he did it.
Look at who's pushing him. Bobby Labonte in that 71 car. Great run for him today.
There might have been some people actually cheering.
May have been,
Bobby
but
Labonte.
I would say it was mainly for that 88
Yeah, it's
car.
mostly for the 88, but you can always hope. And here we see some of the usual suspects back up front again.
Well, this is, after everybody says, look, I'm a little tired of running single file. Let's whoop it up a little bit. Of course, the little dust you see is just some debris high on the racetrack. Here goes Kevin Harvick with Denny Hamlin, who had an up-front car all day long.
And I'm going to tell you what, those Richard Childress cars looked awfully strong. Harvick, of course, he was involved in the wreck with Newman. Casey Mears led the race. And then Jeff Burton actually ended up with a top 5 finish. So the Childress cars actually looked awfully strong here today.
That's one of the things about racing at Talladega is you can run up front all day long. You can run very strong and get caught up in a wreck in the end. When we come back, we'll have the second half of the highlights. And hold on, fans, that's where it gets strange and also a little bit wild.
It is Halloween weekend.
Well, it was the scariest weekend of the year, Halloween on the scariest track of the year, but no problem for Jamie McMurray as he comes around and gets his 3rd career victory, and 2 of those have come on these restrictor plate racetracks, 1 at Daytona and now 1 here at Talladega. When we left you off, we had Dale Earnhardt Jr. among others up front. Let's pick up the racing highlights again in the second half, and we got some bumping and banging going on. Denny Hamlin and Jeff Burton, and Denny Hamlin got a little warning.
Well, there was warnings all day long from the NASCAR tower. They wanted to see daylight. They said if you were turning the steering wheel, which means you're in the corner, they wanted to see daylight between the 2 bumpers.
So daylight was pretty hard to be found no matter where you were on the racetrack as we went from single file racing back to these 3 lines once again. And now the 11 car of Denny Hamlin, fresh off the win at Martinsville, comes out to take the lead again.
And Denny's got a strong Toyota. I mean, I like how Denny Hamlin kind of goes up and says, okay, I'm going to take command here. He has great mirror perception. In other words, he's got his mirrors, and he didn't need a mirror for this one.
Yeah, this was with 50 laps to go. Think about this 11 car. The last 4 races, a win at Martinsville and 3 DNFs, 2 of them engine failures.
And always running up front, it seems like, at the time.
But he's doing a great job in his interviews. He's totally tore up. His gut is ripped out. He's saying to himself, why is this happening to me? But he's giving great interviews and keeping people on his side through tough times.
Big Daddy flexed his muscles here. Old Jeff Gordon in that 24 car took the lead away from Keselowski in the 09. With
a little help from his friends behind him, David Stremme in the 12 is pushing Jeff Gordon as he takes the lead once again. All kind of lead changes going on.
Hey, look here. That car on the bottom is the 12. The outside's the 09. Keselowski and Stremme ran up front all day long. Who we got going to the lead here, Larry?
I believe that might be Junior Earnhardt. And of course, it was announced this week that Lance McGrew is no longer the interim crew chief. He will be the crew chief in 2010.
And they certainly knew how to get Junior out front here at Talladega, one of his best tracks with 5 wins here. And he looked like he might be zeroing in on another one, but you saw Jamie McMurray on the high side there. He spent a lot more time up front here than I think people noticed.
I tell you what, his car was strong. It didn't seem to matter who was pushing it, and he was making it mighty wide late in the race too.
And you know, Jamie McMurray, one of his last wins was at Daytona in a thrilling victory over Kyle Busch. So he is now a super speedway specialist. Let's have fun with that, because both of his wins have come here at Daytona and Talladega.
These wins are not easy to come by no matter how you get it. It's a long day's work. And after a little bump, Kurt Busch goes sailing down on the low side. But don't think there was any penalty for crossing that yellow line.
Yeah, because he actually had a tire problem there. I think he was headed to pit road. But that 48 car, this is where they were starting to try to make their run. And I think they were actually getting concerned because it's like they were in a box back there. They couldn't get to the front.
And I'm going to say it right here. The 48 was in trouble. He was in trouble, and the big wreck that we're going to show you here later on is the way he made it up.
Watch the left side of your screen as Ryan Newman gets bumped and goes upside down with the air catching the back of his car. Roof flaps were deployed, but this is one of the scariest wrecks we've seen in quite some time, and we're very happy to say that Ryan Newman is okay.
Well, there's so many things going through my mind, the last 2 Talladega races. This one here concerns me because there was so much headway made with these roof flaps. Why in the world that car did not settle down? Let's watch, Larry. Let's explain it.
Yeah, it gets hit right there by Kevin Harvick, turned around, and the roof flaps deployed. They did their job as far as deploying, but the car never hesitated.
I just wonder if that wing has disrupted some airflow, because when we had the normal, regular rear spoiler, the car did not.
For the most part, that car would have sat back down.
With the normal rear spoiler. We're going to have to take a look at that.
Now, this right here, what that caution did for this 48, Chad Knaus, like a lot of guys, they were close on fuel. They elected to come to pit road and top it off, knowing that we might get to a green-white checker.
I'm going to go on record and say that was the championship move, because that's why he went from 26th to 8th.
Pretty good move here to see Ryan Newman getting out of this race car. A big sigh of relief over the whole crowd to see Ryan out of the car okay. Not too happy about what went on, but nonetheless okay. And we're glad for Ryan Newman and family. One more wreck still to come. And look at where Jimmy Johnson is in the bottom of your screen. He is right in front of that wreck. Kurt Busch, Mark Martin tumbling. And that was the last shot we had at a green-white checker.
And exactly. And I just want to make sure that the fans understand how they determine the finishing order. It's where everybody was running at the time of the caution. They don't go back to the scoring loop, so it'll take them a little while maybe to sort out who was running where.
As we ride along with Mark Martin, you see what kind of wild ride he had. Fortunately landed back on the tires. Let's take one more look at that wild ride. This time Juan Pablo Montoya behind him. Oh, boom. One of Martin Truex Jr. hits Mark Martin. He goes for a tumble.
I mean, it's like getting punched upside the head. Mark's just rolling right on, and then all of a sudden, you know, here we are now trying to finish this race.
Now, Murray was close on fuel. He had to maintain caution car speed, and he had to get back to the checkered flag before they could absolutely say we won this race.
Still a little drama going on there until the checkered flag waves on the 26 for Roush Fenway and Jamie McMurray. Casey Kane coming in second after going to the back of the pack. And you know what? Looks like he's got plenty of fuel there.
Looked like he was short on fuel to me. He even drove it to victory lane.
I got to give a shout out to the Springfield, Missouri area. This is a Missouri boy. We just had him back at the little dirt track in Springfield, and he was a hero. So there you go, Springfield, Missouri. The guy that you just came and seen about 3 weeks ago wins the race for you.
His first top 5 finish of 2009. That's the first top 5 finish they've had this year.
What a good one.
And good timing. Timing is everything. This is going to be big for Jamie McMurray, and we're going to talk to him in just a moment. But right now, let's take a look at our Valvoline guaranteeing the win move of the weekend as Jamie McMurray takes the lead with a great move on the backstretch and never gave it up. His cars were flipping all over behind him. He was looking at checkered flags for the 3rd time of his career, and Jamie McMurray is coming to join us in just a moment. Congratulations to Jamie McMurray and Roush Fenway Racing from NASCAR Banking, only from Bank of America. And how about the cat in the hat spitting out that champagne all over the place? Where's he aiming for? And they're wasting a lot of good champagne, but that is okay. They deserved it. They earned it. Out on the racetrack today, and for the 3rd time in his career, and probably never better timing, Jamie McMurray. Jamie, when you were towards the end of that race, I mean, when you see cars flipping behind you, what's going through your mind? What are you concerned about at that point, or is it just inside your cockpit of your car?
Well, the first thing I was concerned was run out of gas. You know, Donnie was like, you need to make sure you shake that around so the pickup is in the right place, and the fuel pressure gauge kept fluctuating. So when they kept running more caution laps, I was like, oh, I don't even know if we're going to be able to make it to the end. And then when I looked in my mirror when we were coming to the white, I saw cars wrecking, and I thought, I wasn't sure if that was going to count as our 1 green-white checkered, or if we had to actually, I wasn't sure how many laps were left. So I was a little bit confused, and the spotter was like, it's just, you know, the caution's out, you've won, you just got to get it back to the start-finish line. So it's, man, I'm so glad that's over. The last 30 laps, I asked Donnie, he said 35 to go, and I rode around, and we're kind of riding the top. I'm like, this is great. Everybody's being patient. This is perfect. And I rode around for what felt like 2.5 hours. And I said, how many laps? He said 29. I said, they're not going by very fast. So really fortunate, though, that Matt Kenseth was right behind me in that situation. I've been in the top 3 here with Jimmy and Jeff, or 2 or 3 Hendricks cars, and you know that you can't pull out because you know they're going to help each other. So Matt really kind of made my race whenever there was 2 and 3 wide. Matt just kept hitting me and shoving me back to the front.
But one thing I did notice, Jamie, yeah, you had your teammate Matt Kenseth behind you, but there was a couple of times where you were out there almost by yourself with 3 wide behind you, and I could see you kind of searching. Do I need to be low? Do I need to be high? It's like you were trying to make that car wider and wider.
Well, you when you get someone like Matt who's helping you, the worst thing you can do is, if you see the inside line coming, is to just pull down there. You need to kind of stay, because you know that Matt's gonna help you out. And I was really fortunate that he was there, but it's so hard. And if they break the plane of your rear bumper, it just stalls you out. So it just all worked out just right. I sat and I prayed in that car for 45 minutes when it was over. I'm like, just give me a top 10. You know, it's been a rough year. Just give me a top 10. And gosh, to come home with a win, it's just unbelievable.
Jamie, you earned the victory. You passed Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the win.
At Talladega.
Yeah, and so my point is this. You earned the win. You earned it. Now, what's going on inside your head because you're out of a ride? This has got to make you feel so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Of all the times to to get to be able to win right now is premium. And you know, I've sat in Donnie's office the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we know that the 26 team is going to get shut down, that I'm not going to be at Roush Fenway. And I've been with Donnie so long, and he's such a good friend of mine. Donnie's like, we got to win a race. And I told him, I'm like, Talladega's our best shot, because we know we're going to run well at the super speedways, and the engine shop does such a good job. The Roush Yates engines, they just have so much power, and when you come to a place like this, you just feel so good. And they've worked really hard, the chassis shop, with getting the cars where they go through the air well, and obviously all the cars drive well here. So getting to come here and be able to win with Donnie and all that, it's really exciting.
You know, Jamie, you mentioned you just wanted a top 10, and I pointed out earlier in the show that's your first top 5 of 2009. But I know the box scores. The box scores are what they are. That's what we look at. That's what sponsors look at. But you and I talked a few months ago. Your box scores really don't reflect the performance you guys have had this year.
Yeah, I think every driver can be put in that scenario and say, well, we've run better than where we finished, but we've had a lot of things. It seemed like every time we got to a track like Watkins Glen, we had a really fast car at Watkins Glen. Going to run in the top 5 probably if it all cycles out. And we broke our second input shaft of the year in the transmissions. And
Something you never break.
They never break. Yeah. And we broke 2 in 1 year. So it's been a very tough year. But I tell you, Jack Roush has really been behind me, and he was tough my first couple of years there. I didn't really care for him the first couple of years. But Jack has learned how to motivate me, and that humiliating me or
is his name Rusty Wallace?
right. So Jack comes up to me every week, and he gives me words of encouragement, and so I've grown really fond of Jack in the last year, and he's become a really good friend of mine, and I'm very excited for him. When we won Daytona, I had never got to do Champagne. I don't remember that when I won at Charlotte. And Jack got me good with the champagne. And so that's all I could think of when I was pulling in. I thought, I'm going to get him really good. And he told all those crew guys, they got ready to spray him, and he said, there's going to be consequences that come with that. And I said, Jack, I'm willing to pay him right now.
hey, is your wife here?
She is. Christy is here.
Her first trip to Victory Lane is Mrs. McMurray, right?
Right. And
that
she was in the motorhome. And I asked her this week, I said, Christy, when we ran good at Martinsville and she didn't come, I said, do you ever think gosh, maybe I shouldn't come because you weren't here? And she said, I did think that. And I was like, I always think, well, I ate this for breakfast. Maybe that's a good omen. Maybe that's going to be good luck. You know what I mean? So I asked her today. She said, man, Jamie, she said, I was in the motorhome, and the dogs are in there, and she's like, I wanted to come back out to pit road, but you were leading, and I was scared if I left the motorhome that you wouldn't be in the lead. So she said, I sat in there the whole time.
Well, that's cool.
Hey,
however you get it done,
Absolutely.
whatever it takes. Jamie, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Great job
thank
on
you
a
guys very much.
hard-fought, well-earned win. Had a great time for Jamie McMurray. That's his 3rd trip to Victory Lane in NASCAR's Top Series, and you'll never be able to take this away from Jamie. He's a winner at Talladega. And when you dream, do you dream in speed?
Sometimes,
Let's hope.
yes.
Okay,
yes,
Jamie does from
absolutely.
time to time. You'll see new shows, old favorites, and have the chance to win an experience you never dreamed possible. Find out more at SpeedDreamRide.com. For the first time since the 2nd race of the season, Roush Fenway Racing is back in Victory Lane. It's been a long time for the organization, a long time for Jamie McMurray. As a matter of fact, 86 races for Jamie McMurray. And Jack Roush, team owner, joins us now. And Jack, we had Jamie on just a second ago. Were you really that mean to him? He said you were kind of mean.
Well, we did trick or treat for dogs and also for kids last night, and I fed his dogs more dog biscuits than you can imagine. He had to spend a night with him in his motor coach. So I don't know how that worked out, but I suspect that may have been ugly before they all got up this morning.
So you are a mean guy.
And I gave him a Dutch rub when in the cockpit when he was all bolted in and couldn't defend himself for the race. I've been known to box him around a little bit. Today I gave him a Dutch rub. So for the races that we got together left for the remainder of the year, I'm going to have to give him a Dutch rub and try to feed his dog the night before the race.
This could be a lot more information than we were looking for here. But Jack, we know you're a hands-on car owner, and when we had that caution and everybody was on pit road with 48 to go for fuel and tires, that put everybody awfully close. In particular, your 26 car, awfully close, especially going to the green-white checker.
Yeah, that was real close. We were worried about it. I talked to Donnie Wingo. You know, we had gotten enough fuel mileage earlier in the race when he was running around in the back some, you know, where he was probably part throttling to an extent. And we felt like that the mileage was okay, but running out front, who knows how much mileage he was getting.
Plus,
so,
with this new plate, there were some unknowns, too.
the new plate just changed everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, when people started running out of gas and they kept waving off the or delaying the one to go, I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought we'd run out of gas. I really did.
Jack, there's so many things that go through my mind with this victory. You know how much I care for you. Jamie's a Missouri boy. But gosh, I mean, he's got to leave the team because you have to go down to 4 cars. Are you sad?
I am sad to have Jamie leave the team. You know, we've had it's a tough economy this year. You know, we haven't won as many races as we need. Going down to 4 teams is a problem, and seeing Jamie have to go someplace else because we don't have a spot for him, it's just a huge disappointment.
Jack, how far does a win go with an organization? I know the beginning of every week you have to play psychiatrist. How far does a win go over the whole Roush Fenway organization?
Well, I generally get some phone calls and have some questions to answer that I won't have to answer this week, you know. But it'll go a long ways. You know, we look forward to these last races. We look forward to going to Texas. We look forward to going to Homestead. I'm hoping to turn things around for Phoenix so we can be as good as we've been there sometimes. But, you know, I was thinking as we started the race today, what a long winter it was going to be if we didn't win another race. So the winter will be a little bit shorter by having won today.
Jack, you know, we talked about your cars running up front all day long. I mean, Matt Kenseth was up there all day long. You know, do you think it was, I mean, you're a front runner all the time, but was it the restrictor plate? How do your cars run up front all day long now and they haven't in the past?
Well, I think that virtually anybody in the field could have gotten to the front if they had the right kind of help and if they put themselves in the right situation. I don't know that there were any cars that didn't have enough speed to be able to get up front. But the fact that Jamie was able to stay up front really said a lot. And of course, Matt Kenseth behind Jamie had the brand new FR9 engine. And so that was also good to see that. I'm excited about that new engine run the way it did.
And David Reagan running second right here.
David Reagan ran really well. You know, David Reagan had the new engine as well.
Well, and I think that's a great lead to my question, Jack, that this was a big day for Roush Fenway and for Roush Yates. I'm sure that you guys can't wait to get back to Mooresville and tear those 2 engines apart that have 500 miles on them, because this is the very beginning for this new Ford engine. I'm sure that you plan on running full time in a very short time.
Well, we're running full time as soon as we can get enough inventory ready, but we're really excited about it. Ford did a great job with it. First time we've had a new engine for, I don't know, 30 years or whatever it's been. Longer than my time. We've had the same cylinder block and the same basic geometry, valve train in the engine for the whole time that I've been racing, which is working on 25 years now.
Yeah.
Jack, congratulations.
Thank you
Great
very
job.
much.
It's good to
Appreciate
see you
that,
back
guys.
in Victory Lane.
Good. We'll try to do this again.
Yeah, spray some more
And
champagne.
soon.
And
Just
Jamie,
remember,
we're all done here.
more Dutch rubs, right?
Give him a Dutch rub and feed that dog.
All right, so there's winning car owner Jack Roush as he goes to continue celebrating with his team, and there's always some carnage at Talladega, and we saw it here today.
It's a right rear spring.
They just left it out there.
Welcome back to the Talladega Super Speedway, where chase race number 7 is in the history books. And a guy who is getting ready to make a little bit of history himself is Jimmy Johnson. He rode around in the back all day long and ended up finishing in the 6th position. Let's go to Bob Dillner.
Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry, and I think Jimmy Johnson, for you in Talladega today, that seemed to be the theme.
Yeah, to really end up 6th here today is phenomenal. And what really did it for us was Chad's decision to come get fuel. It was close, and he's like, you know, we're back, and we're just not going to play that game, and it really turned out to help us. So, thanks, buddy. Thank you. Congratulations, Junior. That's a good thing. But that was really the call that got us in position for a good finish.
Last lap, all hell breaks loose again. You know, just your thoughts and able to escape here with a good finish, Jimmy.
I guess it was pretty close to me because I looked in the mirror and I saw it all take place right behind me. So I was very lucky to get through it and be ahead of it. But you know, we knew it was coming. It's just a matter of time when it hits.
Lastly, are you breathing a sigh of relief now with 3 races to go, 180 point lead?
Yeah, definitely. A relief from here. There still are plenty of opportunities to blow this thing. There's 3 opportunities to blow with these next 3 races, but man, I am so happy and proud of this team to come out of this thing with a good day's finish, and we'll be able to race in from here, I think.
Like Mom said, better to be safe than sorry, guys.
And Bob, sometimes it's also better to be lucky than to be good, but if you're lucky and good, you have a chance to be a Sprint Cup champion, and the team is great. There's no question about that. But they also had some serious luck today to miss those accidents.
Yeah, I mean, they can tell us anything and everything they want to tell us, but they absolutely knew this was the bullet they had to dodge here, because plate racing has not been that good to them in 2009. Yeah, they finished second at Daytona in July, but they finished 30th here in the spring, was caught up in the big wreck on lap 7 and turn 3 and 4, and 31st in the Daytona 500. They knew if they could come out of here without giving any points back, that it was going to be in pretty good shape for those last 3 races.
But I must say, it was the championship decision by Chad Knaus. Remember this, race fans. When the wreck happened in the back, Chad Knaus said, look, we've got to gas right now because we don't have enough gas to make it 3 more laps. So because of Chad Knaus's decision to bring him down pit road, okay, now we're back here at 22nd, and then guess what happens? Mark the Kid Martin runs out of gas. Jeff Gordon runs out of gas. So, race fans, is simply Chad Knaus's decision to bring him down and have him restart in the 8th or 10th position. An incredible championship move.
This race was typical Talladega, and that performance was typical Jimmy Johnson and the number 48 team as they dodged a huge bullet, and now they have a huge lead heading in to Texas. But Friday on Speed, the world's toughest trucks stampede into Texas. Are we almost done here? Todd Bodine looks to make it a clean sweep in the Lone Star State. Catch the Camping World Truck Series live from Texas Friday at 8:30 Eastern.
Rumor is they don't play nice.
This week in NASCAR, we'll provide a complete recap of all the action at Talladega. Will Jimmy Johnson escape the big one? Will we see another first-time winner? Will the yellow line rule decide the outcome? Steve Burns, Michael Waltrip, Chad Knaus, Mr. Excitement will tackle all these questions Monday on Twin at 8 Eastern, only on Speed. Now, Mark Martin came into this race second in points, and because of the rained-out qualifying, he started second, but he finished the race for a few seconds on his roof. Let's go back to Bob Dillner.
Mark Martin out of the care center here. Good to see that you're okay, Mark. Wild ride. Obviously tough to tell what happens in these deals, but just tell me what's in your mind right now.
I don't know. I have no idea. You know, been busy since the wreck, and so I don't know what happened. We had a wreck. You know, that's what we do here. You know, congratulations to Jamie McMurray. I'm pretty sure he won. And that's about all I know about the race.
You know, Mark, this type of situation here for traditionalists, it just doesn't seem to be racing.
It's not racing. It's a different word. I just don't have a word for it. But, you know, used to when we came here, it was about awesome speed and power. And now it's like, you know, it's like we're out there with kiddie cars. I mean, it's just, I swear you could almost drive the car around this place with a flat tire and not lose control, you know. But that's what we have to do. I mean, you know, technology has drove us to that. You know, back 20 years ago when we had a lot less technology, you could let it all rip. But today, you know, technology has actually brought us to this. And NASCAR is doing everything that they can. You know, and we just, I don't know. We had a wreck. I knew, you know, you knew we were gonna.
Really good to see that Mark Martin's A-OK after going on his lid, guys.
Yeah, Bob, you got that exactly right. It's good to see Ryan Newman and Mark Martin are both okay after those scary wrecks, but obviously Mark was not too happy with the outcome.
Well, and it's a frustrated man with his restrictor plate races in 2009. We talked about Jimmy Johnson's teammate. Mark Martin has destroyed 3 race cars, or has had 3 cars destroyed in the 4 restrictor plate races in 2009. But he's right. You know, we're in a box. I get emails out the wazoo about get rid of the restrictor plate. You can't get rid of the restrictor plate. These cars would be close to 220 miles an hour, and we saw what happened to Ryan Newman at about 195. So we have to have the carburetor restrictor plate. We are the victim of our own technology and our own success.
You know what? Mark opens up a whole can of worms here to talk about this situation. This is Talladega, race fans. We're just a bunch of crazy people. We repeat ourselves every time we run a race here. Drivers come out of their cars. They say it's the worst racing ever, but this is NASCAR. And I'm going to tell you what, growing up out of Missouri, I just couldn't wait to run at Talladega. We're in a tough situation right now. I hope you understand that I'm not trying to dodge a situation about Mark, you know, being upset. But this is NASCAR racing. We're going to have to work through this issue. Larry, it's just a tough one. You know, let me just say this. I'm going to say one last thing because, like I say, we repeat ourselves every time we run this race. Rusty Wallace, my brother, I know a little data when he won the championship. He had 600 horsepower when Rusty won the championship. I know that because I know his motorman. Now we have 800 and something. If you take the restrictor plate off, and Rusty did it about 8 years ago with a phone company trying to work a GPS out, he ran 228 mile an hour letting off the gas. So somehow we're going to have to just figure something out.
Yeah.
We're speechless right now. I think the whole sport is about this track.
Well, and again, you know, as a crew chief, we would work for months to bring the slickest, best car we could here to Talladega Superspeedway, just like Daytona. You would take months to build it. It would take a half of a second, like we saw today with the 39 and the 5 and some other cars, to destroy them. I never wanted to leave this racetrack and trying to figure out how to get the car into the hauler. But I will say this, I only question it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just question, have we created too many rules? And the more rules you create, the more that box gets smaller and tighter. And I just wonder, do we have too many rules? You can't go below the double yellow line. You can't bump in the corners. We mandate the wing angle. We mandate the rear springs. We mandate the rear shocks. I just think we've got too many rules right now.
And I got to say something, and I don't mean to be a smart aleck about this, okay? We said you cannot bump in the corners. You can't go by the yellow line. And guess where the wreck happened? Both of them and all of them. On the only area that was left, which was on the back straightaway and on the front straightaway. So now, you know, where do we go from here? The wrecks, all the wrecks happen in an area that NASCAR said you can race. So they bump draft down the back stretch. When Ryan Newman, you know, they bump draft down the back stretch, spun him out and wrecked him. They bump draft the 2-car Kurt Busch down the straightaway here, hit him and wrecked. What are we going to do?
And like, I do not envy what NASCAR has to try to accomplish here. If you gave me half of this place, I would not want that task at hand of trying to figure out how do we fix this. It's just, we're just a victim, as Mark Martin said, of the technology that we have with these race teams.
And until somebody comes up with something new, we got to run the carburetor restrictor plate because that's the only way to keep a safe race going on here. Well, a lot of questions still to be answered. When we come back to NASCAR Victory Lane, we'll try to go through a few more of them.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by Travelodge, Recreate, Hibernate, and brought to you in part by Wrangler, proud sponsor of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Wrangler, real, comfortable jeans.
Next weekend on Speed, NASCAR's championship chase hits 3 to go in the Lone Star State. The pressure is mounting as the top contenders try to run down Jimmy Johnson. Live coverage at Speed HD begins Friday at 10 Eastern with NASCAR Nationwide Series practice. NASCAR on Speed. We suggest you be there. Now, Jamie McMurray was there when it counted at Talladega. He gets the victory, but a couple other guys who had strong race cars ended up not exactly where they wanted to be. Let's hear from some of them, beginning with Jeff Gordon.
Talladega is always going to, on a green-white checkered, is always going to be pretty hairy and crazy. But, you know, I don't think we had as much of that when the cars didn't close up as much. But, you know, then again, we didn't have the ability to pass as much. So, you know, I don't know what the solution is. I look forward to the day when I can watch this race from TV instead of being inside of it. You know, it's fun, exciting, and just so crazy at the same time that, and just, you know what the outcome is going to be, and that takes away a lot from the desire to want to go out there and race at Talladega.
NASCAR, you know, telling us how to drive the race cars, the less we can race and the less we can put on a show for the fans. And as I said before, you know, go back in the day when Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, Dale Earnhardt, Darrell Waltrip, all those guys, they were, you know, they respected each other. And yeah, there was big accidents, but Jesus, we don't need the cars getting upside down like this. This is ridiculous. I mean, there's way more technology out there than that to help us out. And whether it's a speed issue, you know, a roof flap issue, whatever, it's just, I said it myself in the media center after the spring race, and now to be the guy standing here trying to live it all out again, I'm just happy that I'm living it out. But it's a ridiculous situation, and it's a shame that not more is getting done. And I don't know. I guess maybe I expect NASCAR to call me the only guy out there with an engineering degree. I'd like to have a little respect on my end.
Oh, Wow, Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. He's talking about respect right now, you know, and drivers respect. And I can only tell you as a race car driver that when I have raced Talladega, and I'm still running in the Nationwide Series, that when somebody gets ready to cut down on me, okay, what situation are we in? Are we 3 to go? Are we in the middle of the race? Because I'm going to tell you what, I give people a break when it's halfway into the race. Now, I can be as aggressive and I can be as mean. Yes, I can be as mean as I need to be. And that's what he's talking about. And I'll tell you what, he does have a good point. Back in the day, man, but, you know, back in the day, they allowed fighting because you've seen Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough back in the 70s fighting on the back stretch, and that is what made our sport so popular. So, I don't know, maybe we should just say, okay, go and race. If you wreck each other, get out, fight, and, you know, that's what he's talking about. Let us drivers rule the racetrack. So, I don't know, pretty interesting to hear.
I mean, I think that's been the theme of our show, this entire show, is I just think you can't tell guys completely. You can keep them from just flat wrecking each other, but you can't tell them how to drive the race car, and that's what they're trying to do here at Talladega, and I just hope we get it straightened out before we go to the 2010 Daytona 500.
Now, after any given race, they always say these are unofficial results, but here at the Amp Energy 500 Talladega, these are definitely unofficial results. These are what we know as of the taping of this show, but the thing is, there's a lot of loops of video. We got to go back. As we say, Jimmy McMurray won this thing. Dale Earnhardt Jr. came home 11th. Vickers, Carl Edwards, a couple other chasers up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, only 3 chase drivers in the top 10 and some guys in that top 10 that needed a good run. How about Michael Waltrip unofficially coming home with a top 10 finish?
And then you sit here and you look at, man, where was Harvick at? Remember, Harvick was involved in the big wreck on the back straightaway. He comes back to finish 21st. John Andretti running good, runs out of gas, you know, getting ready to go green at the end. And poor Mark, the kid Mark, he got slapped upside the head and flipped.
And you saw Kurt Busch there fought his way back from being 2 laps down for having to come to pit road, and then he has all kinds of problems at the end.
Wild day here at the Amp Energy 500. You know what? That means there is a lot to talk about this weekend, this week rather, on the NASCAR Race Hub. Be sure to join us Monday at 7:30 for the NASCAR Race Hub. And we want to thank everybody for coming along for the ride. And it's been a wild one. Let's take a look in the rearview mirror.